Welcome back, guys. This is going to be the fourth and final video in this short series on the build of the Walnut Bedside Table. Starting off, we've got the frame all done, we've got the boxes built, and now I'm just getting things prepped and ready for the final finishing of the assembly here. On this side piece, this is the side that has the hidden drawer in it. We did have a few knot holes that were extending all the way through those butterfly edged glued pieces. And so what I'm doing is using this trick I've described before, where we just fill the hole with some excess glue, build up some wood dust, and then put it in and kind of sand it all flush. I really like this technique just because the wood that you're actually putting in there should be colored matched identical to the wood that's surrounding it. And although it takes a couple different tries to get it to fill up to the full height, it's a pretty tried and true method of doing this. So turning the workpiece over to the other side, I had a few more of these knot holes going through. These were a little bit more tenacious and took a bit more glue and sawdust. So what I ended up doing was just emptying the dust filter, the dust bag, on my sander and using that dust mixed together with some of the wood glue to create my own wood putty that I kind of balled up and worked into some of these holes. And then just before getting into the finishing of the box, I'm just going around and sanding everything off, making sure I don't have any mars or anything from the different fixturing and such of the assembly as I've been working on it. Turning my attention back to the drawers, I've got these somewhat discreet drawer pulls. They're kind of a finger pull that only measure 3 1/4 wide, and they mount with screws that install from the inside of the drawer. So they overhang the top edge, and what I want to do is have a flush surface across the top edge so it doesn't interfere with those clearances that I have around the perimeter of the box as it goes into the bedside table frame. These are, it's a pretty simple approach, but essentially I use a marking knife to scribe the outside edges of these drawer pulls. I'll use my flat chisel to just chop down slightly through the top few layers of wood grain. And then I put a support on the side so that when I come in with a router and a router bit at the depth of the thickness of those handles, I can support myself as it's going through and kind of hogging out that material to give myself the proper depth for where the handles install. that these drawer pulls are installed, I'm doing something similar like what I had done with the rest of the box. Just prior to getting into the point of doing my finish, my polyurethane coat, I'm just doing a final sand, making sure I've got all the mars, scratches, potential scuffs and things off of the surface before going in with the polyurethane. What I ended up selecting for this is what they're calling a super flat polyurethane. It's a Minwax material. I've used satin, semi-gloss, and so on with other projects, but I wanted this to just have kind of an oil rubbed look, like a tung oil or a Danish oil, something that didn't have too excessive of sheen and still allowed the wood grain texture to kind of come through. Quick tip here, guys, is that with the polyurethane, and maybe you already know this, is that you shouldn't shake the can. You should only stir it gently. By shaking the can, you can bring bubbles into the polyurethane, and those bubbles will get onto your finished product. One of the steps that I find the most rewarding is the application of the polyurethane or oil product, just depending on the project that I've got going. But I really enjoy this step because it causes the wood grain really to pop. You see a lot of vibrancy in the wood characteristics and things by getting them wet with the different products. In this case, like I said, I'm using the Minwax Ultra Flat polyurethane, and it's, like many polyurethanes, is meant to be applied in multiple coats. My first coat, unfortunately, was a little bit thick. I put it on a little too heavy, and it took about twice as long as what the can states to dry between coats. Nevertheless, once this first coat that I put on dried, I used a steel wool just to go over all of the different surfaces and knock down any bumps or bubbles, and then applied a second coat, which was much thinner. I mean, the second coat, after the wood absorbs it in the first coat, the second coat is a very skim coat, a very, very thin coat, and dries pretty quickly. As I'm going around, this was a little bit difficult just because of all the different surfaces to cover, but I'm trying to work from top to bottom to chase any kind of drips down to the workbench so that nothing's hanging and drying with an odd drip. And then I'm also trying to hit just one side at a time so that I'm not going back and applying any extra material over top of something that's already had it for a few minutes. Like I said, though, this is an ultra flat product, so although it looks very glossy here, just because everything's wet, it does flatten out nicely. With the polyurethane fully cured, I'm turning my attention to the back side of the bedside table. I had mentioned in an earlier video that I wanted to have an integrated USB charger and outlet at the back of this table so that I could clean up some of the cables that I currently have along the bedside. You know, things like a phone charger or a lamp plug-in, those kind of things, those extra wires kind of are a little bit unsightly, and so I wanted to get that all bundled up behind the bedside table. And the location that works for me is in this rear skirt where I've got 3¼ inch wide piece of wood that I can put a 2-inch hole into to receive this integrated charger. This is just outside of where the slides are for that hidden drawer, and it clears things well. This unit that I found, I put a link in the description below, but it's just a small compact outlet that incorporates a right angle cable so that when it's plugged into the wall, it's not projecting way out. To do a little bit of cable management on the inside of this box, then I'm using just standard cable staples, really. I mean, there's probably a more elegant solution than this, but these are what I have on hand from all of the different house projects, so I figured they'd work here as well. I wanted to do this though to make sure that I don't have these cables getting bunched up behind the drawers or in the drawer pulls somehow. And so I thought this would be a good way to have the cable chase straight down and out the back of the box. There you have it, 4 videos later and we have a walnut bedside table. I'm really pleased with how this turned out. I like that ultra flat finish that I selected, and I appreciate the large volume that these drawers offer. The secret drawer on the side is kind of a nice bonus as well. If you guys have any questions or comments, please drop them below. And if you're willing to give us a thumbs up or subscribe, that's greatly appreciated as well. We'll catch you guys on the next one. Take care.